Hi, all of you. So nice to see so many energetic faces in the morning. Came here to see this. This is actually the basic session, so it will be covering mostly about the planning, scheduling, earned value, and after that we will be covering the case study. Hi, I'm Tushar. I'm working as an associate consultant for ProachCon, and he's my colleague Ritesh. He is also the same associate consultant. So we are going to give you a brief about planning, scheduling, and what are the processes we are going when we are actually planning and scheduling the projects, and we are going further with the earned value and how actually we are monitoring when we have the baseline in front of us. So this will be the informative for you, and you will be always be enjoying it, and it will be like two-sided, so it will be better. Like all the teams, like we will be discussing each and everything. So firstly, I will tell you about our company, ProachCon Group. It's basically a consultants company. It is actually providing innovative advice to the clients for implementing project controls needs and tools that are for their better productivity and for their better future. And we are also have some training project by Project Control Institute. We are actually providing the training for the project controls, and in which we have all the aspects of the project controls, not only planning and scheduling, cost engineering, risk management, everything. And we are providing various certifications from which is accredited by big house standards like PMI, APM, ACE. You all know these are big companies, so they are actually giving the accreditation for this particular study. So if you want more details, you can go to projectcontrolinstitute.com. So we'll getting more idea what kind of certificates we are providing. So just want to give you some brief about myself. My background is I'm BTech mechanical. I graduated from India, MIT, and I started my career in oil and gas sector. I started from one of the construction company, and then I began with working with Fortune 500 companies and provided then helping them with good project control solutions. And I also worked with companies who invested in the 3G modularization. Have you heard about 3G modularization? Anybody heard about the modularization? 3G modularization? It's basically you have the modules and then transport it to the site and reduce the site work. So it's like that technology they're using. So, and the other thing is I've also worked for the offsites and utilities sector, so it's part of that. And my major expertise is in project planning, scheduling, earned value management system. All these are my expertise. The next is Ritesh is my colleague. He will introduce himself.
Good morning, all of you. I'm Ritesh Yadav, currently working for ProachCon Group as an associate consultant. I'm helping clients to set up and deliver project controls processes. Previous to this, I've worked in a major railway project in India for, it was worth $1.2 billion as a senior planning engineer. I've done my bachelor's in civil engineering and have been practicing project controls since then. I expertise in earned value management, schedule management, and the reporting aspect of it. Later half of this presentation, I'll be taking you through a case study for the end-to-end reporting framework in project controls. We'll start from the contractor schedule management, how the data is being exported to the client's reporting system, how the cost is being captured, and how it is being reported finally in the earned value matrices. What are the data quality aspects to it, right from the start till the end? I will run you through a case study for each and every aspect and how should we deal with it. So I'll hand over to Tushar for the introduction part, and I will take it later. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritesh. Okay, so I will be starting with the first slide, which is actually questioning you. Actually, why we plan for the work? This is a very, very nice and good question when you start your project. You ask, actually, why are we planning it? So I will tell you a small story, which is actually helping you to tell in practical life when we go and set a plan, what happens if we fail to actually set the plan in the starting one. in the starting point. So, for example, I will start my story. A person wants to go to a place where he's never been to. And he was planning this trip with his family, and his family is so excited because it's a new place they've never been to. They said, okay, we will start in the morning, and they just sat in the car. He was thinking, this is a new place. I don't know the place. Where is it? So what's the first thing he will think? What will he do if he's a new place? He don't know the area and all. What he will do? Any guesses what he will do? The first thing he will do while sitting in the car. What he will do? Any from the audience guess from that? He's traveling to a new place with his family. He don't know anything with the place here. So what would you first think? Yeah, you. What is you? Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Yeah, she said right. So he needs the direction. He needs to go to that place. So he will just use the GPS system. So GPS system is going to help him to plan his way towards the final destination. So he will know when he's traveling to this way, what are the traffics and what are the situations in the way. So he can plan according to that. So similar things are in the projects. When you actually start with the plan, we are thinking like this is going to be affected when we are going in the way, and that will always be helped when you are starting and knowing that in the start point. So we can say a good plan is like a good map. So starting with the plan, you need to get the map right. So it helps us to plan where we want to go. We want to go to the end, the objectives of the project we have. So we should know that where we want to go and what are the ways we want to use to go towards it. And the second one is get everyone going in the same way. This is the most important because everyone in a team, if they are not aligned, what is the objectives of the project, what we need to actually find at the end, what we need to get for the client, then it's a problem because the plan will fail. At the end, there's no way you're going to be settled at a place where you don't want to go. So we have the same philosophy, same expectations, same strategy, and same goals. So this is a fundamental points that you need when you start making a plan for your project. This is a very nice quote by Benjamin Franklin. You all have been seeing it. If you fail to plan, you are actually planning to fail. So if you're going to the new place, you're actually heading towards a failure. This photographs is telling you that person didn't use that GPS system. Now he's stuck in that place. Okay, this is next topic is project execution plan. This is one of the most important document if you start a project. Before doing the planning, you must know what is your strategy. What is your strategy to actually start with your execution? Before starting execution, you have something in your mind that I'm going to do to be more cost effective, to be more to reduce the time frame, how to actually, it should be quality one, yeah, it should be quality one. So what can I do to actually make this project a success? So this is the first milestone for the success, that is the project execution plan. So, as we said, it is a guiding document. So this is going to guide the whole team when they are going to plan it, when they're going to schedule it, when they're going to execute it, and then they're going to monitor it. So this is the first document they're going to have. It actually is having the critical information that everyone should be aware. So it's going to give you like for example, you have the EPC sector. If you see the EPC sector, my most experience is EPC, so I will be most talking about the EPC sector. So mostly, like for example, you're doing the procurement. So what is your strategy? Are you going to have the in-house, or are you going to give someone other person to get the procured item to yourself? So for example, I've been working in the modularization. So I will tell you about one example. in the 3G modularization, you get lesser site work and more like module yard work. So what do you think, like, for reducing the site work, you actually have a module yard in some other place, and you are actually creating the modules and transporting it through maybe ships or some other mediums. So you have a strategy in your mind that how much ships you will require when you are transporting those modules, and if those modules are transported to the site, how you are actually working. Is it parallel working or something like that? So what is that? This is a strategy in the front end. So you are actually working on that execution plan. It describes general procedure. So this is a general procedure booklet for client as well as the team that is the contractor which is working on the project. So this is very critical. This picture is showing you clearly the modules that have been transported one place to another. So this is a fine example of the strategy that the projects have been utilizing for actually the big Fortune 500 companies like Shell, Fluor is using this kind of technology, this kind of modularization for their projects. So this is the question we are asking is, what is planning? So we are starting with actually execution plan, then we are going towards the planning, because before planning, as we have said, the strategy, we are going to tell what planning is giving us. Planning is actually giving us some kind of operation, some kind of thinking, which is actually written in the form of scope, written in the form of who is actually delivering it, and it's actually having some kind of achievement for the objectives of the final projects. And it has, as such, it's a rational approach to project execution. Actually, it is helping the project execution plan to get into the written books. So it is actually giving the ideas and the thinking in the written books. So how we are actually defining the scope, how we are actually defining the resources that for that particular scope that they are going to utilize. We are not going for the scheduling here, so the planning is just getting the scope, the resources, and then we're moving further for the scheduling. So I will give you this. This picture tells you clear the ideas, the vision, the thinking, and more creativity. So planning is just kind of thinking, creativity, and vision. And when we go further, planning is actually transforming the scope into the schedule, the cost part. So actually we are starting with the thinking, we are starting with the vision, we are starting with the strategy, and we are converting into the plan, and then finally plan is converted to the time frames and the money budget. So this figure is telling you how actually this scope of work is actually how it's converting to the time frames and how it is converting to the budget. So we have just talked about what is actually planning. Now we want to know what actually constitutes planning process. How actually we are starting with planning. I just told you about the brief of the planning, what is planning and what is execution plan and all. But now we want to know what actually process starts with and what are the questions that we ask during the planning process. So we need to get the answers to some questions when we are starting the plan. These are the questions you ask. First is what? Okay, what we want to perform, what we are going to perform. So this is the most important, like what is the scope of work? What are we actually going to deliver to the client? What we want with this project to be? How it will be performed. So this is actually a part of execution strategy that was in the starting point, how we are going to perform it, like what is the strategy you're going to utilize? Is it like modularization or is it like site totally, or what is the procurement strategy? Everything, how we are going to utilize it is going to be a part of this. Where it will be performed. So this is another question we are asking. The location is very important because if you see the construction, you are thinking of modularization, you're thinking of the module yard. You're thinking of that we are going to completely do most of the work in the module yard, not in the site. So this is going to answer the where. And the engineering people have the offices. So all the places we have the set. So we have the question for the answer for the where. Okay, why it will be performed? This is another question which we should know, because what are the expectations, not from the client side, but from our side? What actually we are going to deliver at the end? Why we are performing it? What are the goals for this particular project? Okay, the next question is, who will perform the work? And this is the resources part, the people who are working on it, the construction people, the engineering people, the procurement guys, all the people who are the management guys, all the people are going to be the part of the planning process. And the last question, if you have observed, is not the part of planning, the when. When is going to be defined in the scheduling, which is going to give you the time frames. You have the plan. Now you're slowly going towards the scheduling part. So the when is going to be answered after scheduling. So what is scheduling? So next question we ask, because planning, we did the execution plan, we had the strategy, we had the plan within us, we have the scope, we have the resources, we know what we are going to do, we have the plan, everything is done. Now we need to get those scope of work, those resources into activities, and then we're going to relate it and have the time frames for it, and then finally get the schedule out of it. So what is scheduling? In layman language, it's very simple language. It's actually you're preparing a timetable. It's actually you're preparing a timetable for implementing the agreed plan. So you created a plan, now you're actually implementing it in the form of timetable. This picture depicts how actually we are representing those activities in the form of bar charts, and the time frames are in above where how much time this task is going to take and all. This is a general picture. So what is the purpose of scheduling? Why are scheduling the work? First is it's reflect the project plan. As I said, that the plan is, the next step is scheduling. So it's going to reflect what actually you're thinking is, what the scope of work is, what the resources is. So it will be telling you the activities that are going to be the part of the scope. So to schedule the activities, we should know the work, the scope of work. So it is going to reflect it. The second is we want to sequence the work. That is the second more core important point. If we have jot down all the scope of work, all the activities, we need to actually sequence it so that we can actually know which activity is going to be delivered before which activity. That is one of the steps in scheduling. So this diagram is showing you how actually, this is actually a diagram showing the process steps in EPC company, EPC projects. And the third one is very important, like you want to have a time objectives. Every activity should have a time objective. How much time you will take, the dates, final dates that will be coming after scheduling the whole process. So you will be getting the final time objectives. In the form of milestones also, you have the milestones, you have the activities. So every activity or milestone have a time frame. So you will be getting the time objectives through it. Okay, so I told you about the planning, I told you about the planning process, I told you about scheduling. Now I am going to tell you about the process when we are going to actually schedule the project. So first step is we need to develop the activities. We did what? We did the scope of work. We had the work breakdown structure. I will tell you what actually work breakdown structure is in the next slides. We actually are distributing those scope into activities and listing down those activities to actually go further when we are actually relating the activities and go further for the scheduling. So we need to have a list of project activities first. Then we need to sequence it. Which activity is going to be first and which activity is going to be the second. So this is very critical, because if we don't sequence this properly, the schedule failure will occur. And this is a very crucial thing, because schedule failures can either give you a wrong critical path or a wrong terminology that will actually lead to failure for your projects. And then you determine the relationship. What relationship is it? Like, is it like it's a finish to start or start to start? It's like, I will tell you about more detail, like, is this activity finishing and the next activity is starting? So this kind of relationship is going to be a part of how we are determining it, which activity is getting that relation. And then when we get the relationship, then finally we go for the duration. We want to get the duration of the activity, which activity will take how much time to actually get into. So we need to have the duration. So every team member with the project manager sits down and see all the activity list and jot down which activity will take how much duration. So this is like an experience thing. So you can't say that this particular activity will take this duration without any experiencing it. And then finally, as you get each and every activity duration, you are finally getting the final whole project duration that is going to have the start date and the completion date. So this process, I will be explaining you the critical path method that will be coming in the next slides, how actually we are calculating the whole duration of the project and we are getting the start dates and the finish dates. Before starting that, I just want to give you a fine difference, what actually is planning and scheduling. So what's the difference? Major difference is planning usually is not scientific. It is like thinking. It's not actually jotting down the details and the duration. It's not like a scientific or some kind of simulation you're doing for calculating some kind of duration or the critical path. It's like a thinking. So it's not majorly scientific. It involves more thinking. That's it. It's idea-based. It's you're creating something good for your project. So you're having some thinking for it. So it involves thinking. You need experience. You need experience. You need the history. You need the experienced people because they know what the project wants. They know they have seen these projects fail because of certain reasons. They know that if you won't have invest this in this particular technology, it may have really solved your problem. So this experience is very important for that. Oh, and then last is, and the most important is, it reflects the execution strategy that you have in the starting point. And what about scheduling? Is it like different from planning, what we have thought about? Yeah, actually it's more scientific. It gives you the idea which activities are you actually going to be working on that plan, and which activity is going to take how much duration, what is the relationship. So actually it is scientific. You're giving more detail, more idea about it. It is task-oriented, so it is having all the work activities, all the tasks that you're going to accomplish. In the planning stage, you don't have that much detail. You have the scope of work document, but you don't have much detail about the activities. You're going for further. And it reflects the plan with the duration and the sequence. I just told you about that it is sequencing the events and duration and all. So let's go on next slide. Okay, so I will be now telling you about some key terms that are used in planning and scheduling that are actually linking the planning with scheduling. This is the first term that is actually made from the planning stage, which is actually going to help you while scheduling your project. This is the work breakdown structure. You have the scope, you know the work. You're going to distribute it. Because you have the overview, project managers can't understand it. What is this? You are just giving the scope of a document. How can I work on it? So team members should actually give them a brief, like they want to distribute it. They want to break it down to simpler activity levels so that he can know how actually he's going to execute those projects. Because WBS is also helping project managers to know which particular activity is coming under which particular work packages or which particular framework of the work breakdown structure. So it is actually breaking down into manageable parts so that the project managers know which work he needs to do and what expectations he has with the team members. This is an example if you see on the screen. There are different levels if you see. This is actually telling you how you're breaking down the work. The first level is actually explaining you the project level. It's a top level that is actually saying that which project you are working in, and then you're distributing into different parts. If you see in this example, it's design, construct. It's actually telling you, you have actually divided your project into a design package and a construction package. You know now that I'm going to work in the design like this. So I have some activities under design, I have some activities under construction. So you can actually relate those activities more easier when you break it down. And you have the design, you have the deliverables under it. So what deliverables are you going to give for the client? what drawings or engineering drawings you're going to for the client. So this is actually you breaking further the design and getting more detailed activities. And the construct also similar way. You're getting the construction part and what packages you are going to construct and what site works you're going to do. All those are going to be under that. So this is actually a work breakdown structure you create when you have the final plan in your hand and the scope of work. And the next thinking, project manager sitting in front of you, he has the work, he has a scope of work. He has a work breakdown structure. So the next step he thinks, what team members I'm going to utilize? He has a total list in front of him, but he can't actually explain it because he don't know, because he actually have not broken it into which department is it, which people are working for that department. So this clear idea he wants from the team members. So what we planning people have done it, we have created a breakdown structure. We have created the organization breakdown structure, which is actually decomposing the human resource, actually decomposing it to actually telling which particular resource is going to do which particular work and execute each task that is assigned to that resource. So yeah, if you see on the screen, this is a typical organization breakdown structure of a project. It's maybe not much clear, but I will tell you what is written here. It's a top level is managing director, and then you distribute it into departments. Which department you have? You have the engineering department, you have the operations department, you have the construction department, or you have the administration department. And then further you're dividing which department is containing which particular resource and which particular designation is for that resource. So you're defining the roles and responsibilities under this organization breakdown structure. So you have the breakdown of your team members. You know what team is going to get those work. So what the next step he thinks is, project manager, his thinking is, I want to actually integrate both these two because I know the work breakdown structure. I know the work what I have to do. I have the organization breakdown structure. I know which resources are going to do that work. But actually, do I know how to integrate those? So he wants an idea of integrating the OBS with the WBS to know which particular resource is going to do which particular work. So what he creates is a magical document that is the responsibility assignment matrix. This matrix is actually telling you which particular resource is going to do which particular work. And actually, the project manager feels comfortable that he knows who is responsible for what. If you see this diagram, it is clearly telling you how we are actually integrating the OBS and the WBS. So this table is the matrix which is formed. You say CA, don't go too much detail. I will tell you what CA is. Actually, this is control accounts. I will tell you what control accounts when I will go to earned value management system. But actually, just concentrate that we are actually integrating the WBS and the OBS. So we are creating some kind of assignment matrix. So this is the next thing when we actually go for the scheduling. So first, foremost thing is activity. We are actually defining the work and we are dividing it through work breakdown structure. And then finally, the last level of the WBS, which is the activity level, detail level, because the resource is going to work on that activity. The activity is going to have the resources, the time frames. So what is it actually? It is actually a basic element that is actually consume resource, consume time, and have certain start and finish state. So this is a general idea what activity is. It is the last stage of WBS. If you see the WBS breakdown structure, it is the last stage. It's telling you more detailed one. So it's have a definite start and finish, just told you. It consumes times. Exclusion is milestone. Milestone is not consuming it. It's a kind of activity with zero duration. It's just telling you what is your goals and achievements. Like you have done the engineering, so you say engineering complete. So engineering complete may be a milestone. So it doesn't have any duration. So it's not like normal activity. So normal activity consumes time. It consumes resources. As I told you, the OBS, which is formed from the resources, it is going to be integrated with the WBS and going to be integrated with the activity. So it is consuming the resources. And the most important is, it is measurable. This point is actually the base for our value management system, because if we can't measure it, if we can't measure an activity, if we can't measure the efforts we are going for the activity, we can't actually monitor it through earned value management system, which I am going to give you a brief after this completing scheduling part. So this is a final example, like when you're in EPC companies, you're working for EPC projects, you have the engineering part. So the engineering deliverables, the activities you're doing, that is measurable. That is measurable. That may, if you have heard, it's the OBS and WBS. If you are actually integrating it, you're creating a measurable term that is man hours. The man hours are actually giving you the efforts, the measurable terms for the engineering. So this is I'm just giving you a certain example. No, don't go too much detail, but I will just give you a certain example how we are measuring an activity. We are measuring an activity, for example, in engineering in form of man hours, because you have manpower, you have some hours, you multiply it and you get some man hours. So that is the effort that you are actually applying on engineering part. And then if you see, the next is procurement. So this is also one of, you can measure it in the form of cost. So you have given some procurement to some vendors. They are giving you the cost terms. So you have the procurement in the cost terms. It is measurable. And finally, construction. Some people say we measure it in man hours, some people say in cost, some people say quantity. So different perceptions, but it depends on what is your thinking is. I think like if you start with the man hours, you have, you know that these particular resources, this particular machine is required when you are actually working on the site. You know that how much man hours is going to be consumed, and then you can actually convert it into finally cost. So when you're working in EPC or any project, if you see, you want one measure. You want one measure. You don't want a man hour. You don't want another to be cost. You don't want another to be quantity. You want one measure to finally integrate it. You want to integrate the work, the resource, and the time. So you need a one measure. That is a cost. What I have seen is mostly we go to convert everything into cost bits. And then we go for the managing part, like how we are monitoring it for the cost. So next is the milestone. I just told you milestone is a zero duration activity in one word, if you say. It is not consuming any resources. It is not consuming any time. It is simply like contract signing. You have the contract signed. You have that event for you, but it is not actually consuming that. It's a one day. You have actually done it. It's a goal or achievement. You have done it. You have signed the contract. It's a milestone for you. So it can be start or finish achievement. It has no duration. It has no resources. If you see this figure is actually showing the isometrics. If somebody is in the oil and gas sector, he can understand it. It's actually the engineering complete part. If you have the last isometrics, you have the engineering complete. So this is kind of a milestone you are setting up. Maybe it could be procurement. You are actually procuring some long lead items, or you get the milestone for it. So you said this is a milestone that long lead items have been procured or ordered. And you can get the construction also. You are commissioning something. You're commissioning at the end of the construction when everything is done, everything is fixed. When you're commissioning, so it is you can have a commissioning milestone too to explain that this is done or this is. So this is like a start or finish achievement you're telling about. It's not a duration part. It's not a resource. The next is Gantt chart. It is actually term more utilizing scheduling part, and if you have worked in various softwares like Primavera, Microsoft Projects, and other, you have seen this thing. You must have seen how actually activities are shown in bar chart form, how they are showing in the time frames, and with the activities and duration. So this is showing you like small thing, like all the tasks with the time frame and the bar chart. So this is a very simple example how actually Gantt chart looks like. Next is the network diagram. So now we have actually broken down the work breakdown structure. We have the activities with us. Now we need to actually align those activities in a network form. We need to know which activity is going to be done first and which activity is going to be done after that. So we are creating a kind of network diagram that is showing the logic behind what is we are going through. So basically it's showing all the logic relationship between the activities and how the predecessors and successors are moving when we are actually executing the projects. This diagram is very simply telling you how a network diagram shows. For example, say activity A is the next activity is B. So this is a logical sequence which is maintained, and if you see the activity D, then it is going towards 2 activities. So maybe after activity D, we are doing parallelly 2 activities. So this is actually telling you the logical sequence, how actually each an activity is related to each other. So it is telling you about that. Okay, the next topic is type of activity. We have talked about we have the activities, we are linking it. Okay, it's okay. We know the work breakdown structure, everything is okay. But how we are classifying it? How we are actually knowing which activity is like what? So 2 terms, very simple, predecessor, successor. Because when you are, maybe you all have been working in Primavera and you know what is predecessor and what is successor. So an activity, when you have described this activity is going to be executed, you know which activity is going to be a predecessor for it and which activity is going to be a successor, because that is a very critical when you are actually scheduling it. Because if you don't logically link it, you don't logically link those activities with the predecessor and successor, then it's going to create a schedule with no proper critical path and no proper execution start and finish dates. So this is not executable. So you need to have this in mind while you're actually defining these 2, predecessor and successor. This diagram shows you clearly. Activity B is the activity of focus. Activity A is the predecessor, which is actually occurring before that. And activity C is the successor, which is occurring after that. If you see activity D, E and F are actually the successor. So we can say it is a multi-successor activity. And if we see the D, it has 1 predecessor, so normal predecessor. But you may have multiple successor or predecessors, as shown here. Next is, we want to get the dependency. We know we have linked it, we have created a network diagram, we have the time. Now we want, for getting the duration and time frames, we have to actually have a dependency. How each activity is related to the other activities. This is important. There are 4 kinds of dependency. Finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, and start to finish. So first is finish to start, that one task is completing and the next task is starting. So this is the most used logic which is we utilize in the scheduling part. And this next is start to start, which is actually one activity is starting, the other activity is parallelly starting it. And next is finish to finish, which wherein actually we are finishing those 2 activities parallelly at the end. And next is start to finish. So this is very rarely used. We don't prefer this normally in the project, start to finish. It's not used much. Then we go for the activity duration. It needs experience. As I told you, as we have linked it, we have the dependency, but we need to have the duration. So it needs experience. So project manager and the team members sit down and know what needs to be done for the duration. The 2 main methods that are used for the duration is PERT and CPM. So PERT is very old method which we started when we had research and research work, and then we get the final, which normally today we use is CPM, that is critical path method. Both methods have some kind of time duration estimation. That is, the PERT is using the 3 time estimates. That is the most 3 estimate is pessimistic, most likely, and optimistic. These are used because we don't know exact what is the date is. So we go for the 3 estimates and have a probability, statistical probability. By using the statistics, we use this formula and get the most probabilistic time duration. And for the critical path, we know the exact duration. We don't have certain kind of mechanism for that. So first is, I want to know the project duration. So I will tell you what critical path is doing it. So software, you're using the software, that is the Primavera. It doesn't in seconds, but there is a process, scientific process behind it. So what is the process? You may have heard these 2 terms, forward pass and backward pass. These are the base for actually creating the duration for the project. Forward pass, in forward pass we actually go in forward direction and we calculate the early start and the early finish dates. And backward pass, similarly, we go, as this name suggests, in the backward direction and calculate the late start and the late finish of the date. And then finally, we get the project duration and the project start and finish date from the forward pass. So we have the early start and the early finish, and we get actually what is the duration of the project and what is the start and finish through that. And the late start and late finish is going to give us the float and the critical path. I will let you know what actually these terms are, what is float and what is critical path, and actually how we are relating it, how we are getting the project duration from it. This is a general idea I will tell you about that. So what are the outputs? First is the early start. So early start is getting the what is the earliest date, the time that activity is going to start. So this is the earliest time that activity is going to start. The next is early finish, the earliest date that activity is going to finish. What is the earliest date? And the late start is the latest date, how much late it can go further to actually start it, and how much late it can go to actually finish it. So these are the dates, key dates that is going to give you the duration of the project and going to give you the float and finally the critical path for what your project is having. And the other terms are lag. So lag is actually nothing, you are actually one activity, in the other activity you have the finish to start, and then you are actually giving certain kind of extra duration to the activity. Maybe some kind of small activities working on between those activity, which is not in detail explained, but yeah, we sometimes use lag in between two activities, some extra duration we put for some kind of processes which are occurring between. And total float, yeah, total float is actually giving you idea about the early start and the late start difference. What is actually float? How much time it has to actually not affect the whole duration of the project. And this particular, if we have the total float as 0, that means we have just same early start, same point. That early start and late start are in the same point. So we don't have any float. If we delay that activity, it's going to actually affect the whole project duration. Free float is actually between the two activities. It is actually describing if one activity is going to affect the other activity, how it is affecting. So if the amount of time that early start and finish of an activity can delay without delaying the early start finish of the other activity. So it is actually between the free float is between the two activities, success and failure. And critical path is actually, it is actually a series of activities that are telling you about critical path and telling you about what are the activities that are in the part of that. So just tell you about the schedule failure. So we have actually created all the schedule and we created the duration, linking it, everything is done. So just tell you about the schedule failure. So first one is the lack in buy-in. First of all the project team members are working with each other, but they don't have buy-in, they don't have the commitment for the project. So they have certain questions in mind and they don't tell it while preparing the schedule. Second is lack of planning in the starting. As I said, if you don't have the plan proper, then you don't have the final WBS and you can't actually relate it with the time frame. So if you have the lack in planning, then you can always be having the failure in the schedule. Then you have the inadequate logic ties. If you're not logically tying the activities properly, then it is going to create a schedule that is not proper for you. So it is going to create problems. Poor duration estimating. So if maybe some project team members don't have that experience, or maybe there's a problem while actually giving the duration of the activity, so it will also create some kind of problem. Lack of information, so you don't have much information from the start and the middle point, so you are actually creating a problem while actually creating the schedule because you don't have that much information to put into the schedule form. And the last one is you actually lack resources. You don't have much resources and you actually don't plan for it. And certain kind of work conditions are there, you have not thought about it and this is creating a problem. Next is, after seeing all these failures, the DCMA, Defense Contract Management Agency, put down 14 points that are going to get you help the assessment for the schedule, how schedule health can be improved. So first is checking the logic. So if you check the logic, you gonna have if the logic is not correct, it's going to affect the whole system of the relating the activity. So this is the one point. So they want that every activity should be logically connected. The next is looking for the leads. If you see the leads, you should see that it should not be more than 5%. So, leads should be reduced to lower level. So leads should not be used. That is the second point. And the third point is lags. So lags, they said it should be less than 5%. Lag should not be much used. It should be, if you have to explain that lag is covering some kind of process, then you could actually define an activity in between. Then the right relationship type, you don't have the right relationships, and you then finally get the schedule which is not correct. So you get to have the right relationship first. And the hard constraint, you should not put much constraints in the schedule, because it is going to create like a constrained, high constraint project, and it's going to not give you proper schedule. And then the final, you should not actually check the total float. Actually, it should be confined in between the schedule. It should not actually give a picture that is like, for example, your float is more than 44 days. It is criteria. If you have more than 44 days, it is going to give you that some activities are not linked properly, that some are actually dangling activities, you don't have the, so that is actually showing you more float for that. Negative float is never good. So you just reduce because negative float is getting you that you are getting some problem while you are preparing the schedule. So you should reduce the level of negative flow, because it is super critical system. You should actually broke down in long duration. If you have certain activities like more than 2 months or 3 months, you should think, is it like a big activity, or actually you have utilized wrong duration. You should break down those activities into much more, like 1 day, 3 days. So 2 months activity should be reduced. Check for invalid dates. So you check for invalid dates if those dates are not actually covering the thinking which you have in the starting. So those dates are because of these all relationships and all these reasons. Okay, then you should actually load the resource and the cost. That is most important, because if you are not actually loading the resource and cost, then it's also creating a schedule that is not perfect. And activity slippage. Okay, so this should also be there. You should not actually slip from any activity. You should avoid slipping, and you should enter all the activities. And then the critical path integrity. Critical path integrity means like you should actually check the critical path, and it should be integrated with what your schedule is showing. Next is critical path length index. It is actually showing you how much, for example, the critical path plus, it has a formula, critical path plus float upon the critical path length. So if your float is 0, what actually your float is, it is like less than 1 or greater than 1 or 0. It is showing you, this index is showing you how far is from your critical path. So this is the baseline execution index. It is showing you till data date what you have executed. Actually, you have planned a number of activities you have planned. Are you actually doing those number of activities at that particular data date or not? So it is kind of a relationship between number of activities you have actually done or what you have planned.
As we have completed the planning scheduling part, we are now going towards the earned value management system. So in earned value management system, we are actually going to integrate the schedule, plan, and going to create one baseline wherein the work, the scope, the schedule, and the cost will be going to be integrated. So what actually earned value management system is? It is actually measuring the productivity of your project. It is telling you what is the present health of the project, and also telling you what will be the future project outcomes, what will be the estimate that will be at the completion. So the EVMS is actually helping you anticipating the problems that are occurring in your project and make you aware what you need to do in the future to come back to your baseline. It actually gives some kind of trends and give you some kind of graphical representation which really help you to analyze how far you're from your baseline. So if you see, it actually helps you because it is a lesson learned, because it gives you a lesson learned in the present status, and give you, if you work in the same manner in the future, then it's going to cost you more. So you have to work with more efficiency in the future to cover all the baseline you have created. So actually this slide will be dealing with how you're actually making the baseline for the earned value management system, because if you want to compare the present situation, you need a baseline to compare with. So let's see how actually we are going further for it. Okay, so this diagram, if you see, is actually telling you the definition part, that is the work breakdown structure. You have defined your work, and then you're going towards your schedule. You're actually scheduled your work, your activities are linked, and you're also loaded your cost. So you have resource loaded schedule, and actually you're loaded the cost in it, so you have the cost breakdown structure. So you have the three: cost, schedule, and the work, and you're actually integrating everything and converting it into the baseline, which is actually the PM baseline we call progress measurement baseline, if you see. Now we see actually how we are going further when we are working in the execution stage, how we are actually giving our team efficiency, and how we are actually coming up with the solutions that can make our productivity properly correct. So this slide will give you brief the cost, all the three parts which we have created into baseline in the form of cost element is giving you the whole structure of the contract, wherein the top level is the total contract price. So the total contract price is going to be further distributed into two parts. That is your total contract cost and the profit that you have set aside for your company project. And then you are going to get further down to the contract budget base. Contract budget base is actually your total contract cost, but it is a part of PMB, which is actually the performance measurement baseline and the management reserve. So performance measurement baseline is actually going to give you further comparison of your baseline and your actual work. And the management reserves, that is a part of contract budget baseline, because contract budget baseline is containing some management reserve, which is your company put in maybe if you see the project, not only the project manager, program manager also see the whole project from his side. He sees he needs some kind of management reserves to be put in his pocket, and if there is a problem, like if there is any risky situation, he can utilize it. So it is like a contingency which is kept under him. And as we go further from performance measurement baseline, we distribute into two parts. That is the distributed budget and the undistributed budget. The distributed budget is going to tell you more about your actually time phase budget, which is actually containing your schedule, your resources, everything is linked. So you have the time phase budget. So you can actually apply your EVMS further when you go in the distributed budget. But undistributed budget is some kind of scope which is still not defined in detail and not time scheduled, not in much detail, and you need certain more information to get into back to the distributed budget. So you need to reduce undistributed budget and increase the distributed budget so that you can define it more properly and can go up to the EVMS monitoring stage. So as you are converting the undistributed budget to the distributed budget, you're going beneath it, that is the control account level. Control account level is, as the name suggests, is actually the account where every work is accounted. You have the baseline, you have the integrated baseline here, the scope, the cost, the time, everything is integrated in this control accounts level. So now you are going to get a comparison of the baseline here. The next level, which is the work package level, which is in this work package level, you're going to have a detailed activities, and all the monitoring, all the monitoring is going to be the work package. The work package, which is under the control accounts, is going to give you all the EVMS actually, because the planning package, which you can see down, is like far future activities which yet to be detailed under the control accounts level. So it is actually under the control, but we have not detailed much as compared to the work package, which is more detailed. So we can start with the present criteria we have, the work package which we are working on, and the planning package may be the future. It's future activities which are not much detailed yet, but can be detailed as we go further. In many projects, if you see, the planning package, maybe it's not a big project, so planning package can be minimized and it can be detailed and get it converted into the work packages, and we can simply work on the work packages. So that is the point where actually EVMS is working. So a work package level, we're defining the earned value, the control accounts under the work package. So I would like to tell you about some important terms that are utilized in earned value management system. Because we have created a baseline, we have actually told where the earned value management system is working. So we now need to know what actually are the terms that are actually linked with earned value management system that are telling us that what is the health of the project. So we, as a project manager, if he's sitting here and he wants to know the health of the project, he must be seeing some terms. He must be seeing what are the result of the terms. And he can analyze from those terms that what is my health and what I need to go further to improve it. So let us see all the terms one by one so that you can understand what are the helping hand for the project manager. First one is the planned value. Planned value is actually how much you should be doing, how much you should be going for, how much you should done till now. So basically it is the distribution of your budget into the time frame, and you know in every month how much planned value you are going to get. So you have the budget, you are actually distributing in every time frame, and the planned value is a part of baseline. So you're comparing this planned value with two things, that is the earned value. Earned value is actually nothing. It's a physical work you're doing it. Actually, what percentage of work you're doing. It is actually calculated when you have all the activities in front of you. You have the activities with the milestone for measuring the progress for the activity. You can actually calculate at which level you are in, and you can calculate the physical progress for this particular activity and get the earned value that maybe in the terms of hours or maybe in the terms of cost, what you have said. You can get that. And then here comes the next term, is the actual cost or actual value we say. It is the actual spend, means whatever you are booking in, you're actually booking. The amount of time that you are actually spending or the amount of cost that you are actually spending on your project is actually given by this actual value. So this is going to be compared with earned value as well, and this earned value actually is the middle point. So we can actually compare the planned value, which is the budget we have set and distributed, and the actual spend, which is we are spending as per the current scenario, so that we can get the health of the project. So I will let you know how we are actually utilizing these terms. Next term is budget at completion. So budget at completion is what was the total job supposed to cost. So at the end, what was your thinking? The budget at the completion, what was your final budget at completion? So it was supposed to be, but actually what is the present criteria is let you by the estimate at completion. So with the present situation you are handling is going to give you some estimate that will be as per the factors you are taking care. The earned value, the actual value, the planned value, these three factors are going to affect your estimate at completion. Because as you are doing your physical work, you're doing the actual work, you have the budget and you plan for it, then you get a performance indices that really give you estimate that is as per present situation that you are handling. For example, this is the next is estimate to complete, which is going to give you what is you are estimating some costs which is from the data date today, what is going to be in the future. So it is telling you till now you have completed this much and what is the forecast for the next time scale. So it is telling you as per the present scenario you have been to this health, and if you do the same thing, if you utilize the same health parameters in the future, then what is the estimated to complete. Next is Schedule Performance Index. SPI, we say SPI, Schedule Performance Index. It is actually comparing, as I told you, planned value, earned value, and actual value. These three parameters are going to give you every health check for your project. So if you see the Schedule Performance Index, it is simply the planned value compared with the earned value, that is, you can say earned value by planned value, ratio of earned value by planned value, which is the SPI, which is showing you how earned value you're earning it, how much planned value is there at that moment, so how much value you have earned from the plan you have thought about. If you have actually less earned from your budget, then it is you're under schedule. You're not actually growing with your plan. You're not going with the schedule. So these all parameters are going to affect your project in future. Not only the schedule performance index, the cost performance index is also there, which is actually the ratio of the earned value and the actual value, which is actually telling you how much you have earned, that is physically how much you have worked upon, and for that how much you have spent it. If you have spent it more, then that means you are actually over budget. That means you are not as per your budget. You are actually going over budget, and your cost will be more. So your project will fail at the end. You thought about your budget, and now it's going over budget. So it's a big problem. So these parameters are going to help you. If your CPI is good, then you're thinking your project is good, your health is good. So you can project your future forecast as per this. Right. And next is schedule variance. As we saw the SPI and CPI, which is actually telling about the ratios, the schedule variance is telling about the quantity. That means it may be man hours, it may be cost. So it is telling you how much magnitude you are over budget or under budget, or how much magnitude you're over schedule or under schedule. It is telling you that. So these two parameters, the next cost variance, the cost variance and the schedule variance, both are showing the same, like you're showing in the terms of the cost or man hour. So cost variance is telling you if cost variance is earned value minus actual value. So actual value is greater than earned value. So that means you're spending more and more, and see the cost variance is not perfectly okay. So these parameters are judged. If you see, this is the flow chart showing the earned value management system implementation, how we are going to implement it. The first thing we need to know is how to calculate the plan value, how to calculate the earned value, and how to calculate the actual value. Because we are seeing that we can actually utilize these terms and get some performance indexes, get some variances, but actually can we see how we can calculate these things and get into the health check mode, and then finally get the health check to the management through reporting, and get the management eye about the project and what project demands in future to the management. So these are commitments between the management and the person who's standing. So first is the plan value, which is actually the baseline data. You're getting from the scope, you're getting from the cost, you're getting from the schedule and the risk. So the baseline that you're creating is going to give you the final plan value. And then you are going to, for the earned value, you're going for the progress. You have those activity listed, you have the milestones for each activity, how you are actually executing it, and you have a certain kind of physical progress for that particular activity. So this is going to give you the earned value, how much physically you have actually done that activity in the milestone progress. And the next is the actual value, that is the actual spend, which is going to be coming from your time sheets that you are filling, or some kind of financial accounting data that you have in the SAP. You're putting your data, actual spend data, in the cost accounts in the SAP, so you're getting the actual cost to it. So we are actually comparing these three values and getting some kind of health check. This health check is actually getting some variance calculations, some percentage relationships, and performance indices and forecasts. So first is variance calculation. So we have the schedule variance, cost variance, variance at completion. These terms I just told you about, the schedule variance. So I will tell you more detail how we are actually calculating it in the next slide. This is just a process. So actually we are getting all these values, and then we are generating the reports, and then getting it to the management for its review, and then they see what is the health of the project. Is it going over budget or under budget, or it is like over schedule or under schedule? So these are all the formulas that we are using to calculate all the indices. Just told you about that. So first one is the schedule performance index. It is telling you about the earned value upon the planned value. So it is actually a ratio. It is telling you how much plan value you have and how much earned value. So how much percentage you have been earned for that particular plan value. So you're actually, if that earned value is more than your plan value, that is you're over schedule. You're actually going above your scope. What you have planned is this, and you are actually moving further. You are actually over that. You are faster. And if you have the earned value less than the plan value, that means what you have planned is not you're actually executing. Your earned value is less. So your performance index will show you the less than one value. So it is checking you at how much actually you're with the budget, or actually you're not with the budget. Next is cost performance index. Then it is actually the earned value by actual value. It is actually, as the name suggests, it is cost performance. So it is telling you how much actually you have spent on it and you have earned on it. So if this value is less than 1, that means earned value is less than actual value. That means you are spending more and you are actually earning less. So that means you are working less, but you are actually spending more. So this is a very bad situation. So this is telling you about this. And what about the schedule variance? It is telling you in the form of cost or in the form of man hours. It is actually because it is the physical term. Earned value is going to be in the form of hours or cost. So it is telling you in the physical term how you are actually deviating from your cost or schedule. And the cost variance is similar, like it is in the form of actual value and the earned value. So it is telling you about the cost variation from the actual value. And the next is estimated to complete. I just told you how we are going to calculate the estimated to complete is, it is the remaining work. So basically the budget minus the till date you have earned is your remaining work, and divided by the performance you're going for the project. So this is the performance you have for the project, and the remaining work divided by the project performance is going to give you the estimate to complete. And the next is estimated completion, which is actually the actual you have done plus what you are expecting to complete at the end. So this is actually the sum of the actual till date plus the estimated to complete. And then the variance at completion is actually the calculating the what budget you have thought about which is going to be at the end, and subtracted by the estimate now you think is going. Because if estimated completion is going far beyond, then there is a variance, and that is actually explaining that your project health is not correct. Then next is to complete performance index. It is telling you about what performance index you need in the future to actually go for the budget at completion. You need that to complete it into the budget at completion. So you need some kind of performance index in the future for completing that budget in that time frame. So you need this TCPI. Schedule performance, this is actually in the form of percentage. As you see, this is the first we saw in the form of ratio, then in the form of efforts, and we actually see how much schedule variance is in the form of percentage as per the plan value. Similarly, for the cost variance, how much cost variance are as per the earned value. If you see this curve, this is actually demonstrating you how we are showing the actual value, earned value, and planned value, and all the things are shown. Like if you see the plan value is actually higher than the earned value. Earned value is lower, so it means we are actually under schedule. And if you see the actual value, which is far up the plan value and the earned value, that means we are actually spending more. So actually this is showing a bad health of a project. And the schedule variance and the cost variance is actually showing the difference, as you see in the figure. And we have the BAC, that is budgeted completion. What the budget set we have, we said that we are going to complete in December 15, but actually we see the estimated completion is going till February 16. That is a forecast. So it is actually we are slipping with time, and actually we are not completing under budget. This is a diagram. Oh, sorry. This is so Ritesh is now going to tell you about the data analytics and all.
Thanks, Tushar. So now we'll be going through a case study on scheduled data analytics and reporting from the quality perspective. So as Tushar was discussing, the EVM reporting has always been around data. So it's a very hard practice of data what we are doing. We are generating data in a form of schedule, then we are monitoring that data with the progress data, with the physical progress and the cost data what we are getting. So for our EVM reporting framework, these are the key components of it, like data obviously being the first thing and the most vulnerable thing. That is why it is highlighted in red. There is a high chance of data going wrong and misleading us in a completely different direction. And the impact is like the cost for which we are doing this earned value management system, the whole thing fails. The optimization fails and everything fails. We'll look into it from later. So when we talk about the data cycle for especially for the earned value management system, the first thing is like we create data. So we create schedule. So what do we create in a schedule? First, we list down the activities, we list down the work breakdown structure, we link the activities, we prepare a critical path, we assign resources to it, we assign cost to it, and we prepare a foolproof plan how we are going to execute a specific task, a specific project. So once we are done with the schedule data, then the monitoring part comes up. Sorry, excuse me. Oops. So once we are done with the data, then the monitoring part comes up. We update that schedule with the real-time progress data and the cost which we are incurring. Then we evaluate that data in terms of various parameters what we have got, the SPI, the CPI, the cost variance, the estimate to complete, and everything. And if the progress has got out of track, so we might need to re-baseline the whole thing. We need to re-baseline, and we need to like create the data from scratch again or improve that data and then again re-monitor. So this is a data cycle what we normally go through. And this data which we keep on generating can be used for several similar projects to baseline. Like if we are doing a railway project for the first time, like the HS2 is coming up. So the first phase data will be very effective in the second phase of the project, since that will serve as a baseline, as a learning curve, the optimization what we are doing in, what the challenges what we are facing, the unknown challenges, the known and unknown, everything will serve as a historical, as a baseline to re-establish a similar project. So when we combine this data with the lesson learned, the optimization and the location and various other factors, it can be used in baselining several other projects. But what happens if this data quality is not up to the mark? When I say the data quality is not up to the mark, it can be the schedule data which we have prepared first, it can be the progress data which we are entering, and it can be the cost data which we are capturing. We'll go into detail how it can go out and how do we manage that. So these are some of the impacts when the data quality is not up to the mark. So there will be obviously delays and cost overruns happening. Then the progress parameters will always come bad, because if you are progressing out of sequence, how can you expect your progress parameters to come good? The third aspect is the reserve adequacy risk. So before start of any project, the most important component is the funding for any major infrastructure project or any project. So we need to analyze what is the money we are going, what is the money going into it, and how are we getting the money, how are we getting the returns from a contractor's point of view. Then we need to analyze the whole cash flow. And that cash flow is very much dependent on the basic schedule what we prepare, like what are the milestones we are going to achieve, what are the payments milestones, what are the procurement we are going to do, what is the lead, whether it is a long lead item, whether that time is not required. Like in my previous project, it was a railway project. So we had to procure track construction machines, and it has a lead of 18 months. So if you delay that procurement by 2 months, your project will straight away get delayed by 2 months. So because it was on the critical path and the most important machinery in that project. So your whole material, resource and manpower forecasting or planning what you had done will be in a question if your data quality is not up to the mark. Like once the project is delayed, the whole manpower which you had planned for, like the resource curve what you are going to do, the material optimization what you had done, or the machinery optimization, like if you have some certain like long lead machineries and high cost machinery which you are optimizing, then it can complete or it can run to a complete mess. So the whole optimization might fail, and again with the poor data quality, you can't use that data to baseline similar projects. And the last point is the data-driven decisions. So once we are doing a certain project, we are creating a lot of data. That data can also be used in planning several other projects. What is the feasibility study? like how much, whether that project can be successful or not. So the whole data-driven aspect goes in vain if the data is not up to the mark. This is a typical EVM reporting framework involving a contractor, client, the planning system, the costing system, and integrating both the planning and costing system through a software. It might be Delta Cobra, or it might be any equivalent software, which gives us the performance parameters. So when we plan a system, like if it is a if you are working with a client which has hundreds of projects, and if every project wants to design their own WBS structure and the way they want to monitor it, it's very difficult. So in a practicality, standardization is very important in that aspect. So with a standard WBS dictionary, the contractor plans their scope of work, and the client also monitors with the same WBS dictionary. That WBS work breakdown structure dictionary will be aligned to the cost breakdown structure, because the progress which you are doing, if it is not aligned to the cost you are incurring, how will you compare that? So the progress and the cost should be in sync, where it can be compared and you can see the progress, how you are doing with time, with cost, with estimate to complete and everything. So in the planning system, the major two components what you will have a baseline schedule, and you will update with the progress. And then once the contractor has done that, the data will be migrated into the client system, which will come into eventually into Cobra. Similarly, parallelly, the cost will be collected from site. That will be booked in a software. Let's say it might be SAP or something, and then eventually it will come to Cobra, and then we'll get the reports. But the important aspect is, where can the data go wrong? As discussed, if the work breakdown structure and cost breakdown structure are not in sync, that is the first problem what happened. If both go out of sync, you cannot compare the data. So the progress parameters won't be right. And again, once the contractor has updated the schedule, then you migrate the data into the client system. So there are a lot of data migration issues. There are softwares which are stabilizing with time, with the trend of data what you are getting. It is stabilizing with time, but still a lot of progress can be done in that. The primary thing is the baseline schedule what was done. If the baseline schedule what contractor prepared is not up to the mark, the data quality in terms of the scheduled data quality, what we popularly know in terms of the DCMA 14-point check, what Tushar discussed. If the data quality is not up to the mark, it's very likely that it will progress out of sequence. And after a certain period of time, you won't get a track of what is happening, and the whole critical path might be impacted. You might lead to a lot of delays, unrecoverable delays, and cost overrun. So we'll talk about the scheduled data quality as well. After that, when there is a change request, so the baseline updates. So how efficiently you manage the baseline? That is again a question. Like when you are updating the baseline, then there might be some problems with the cost curve and all. We'll have a look in detail. Apart from these three things, what is happening is, like in the case study, it was found out, like once the progress is updated, then there is a lot of rollback of the progress again happening. So what happened, like a planner updated a progress, let's say we have progress 70% with the schedule. But in the next reporting month, he might come back and say, no, 70% was wrong, it will be only 68% or 65%. So how does it impact the overall data quality? Like how reliable is your data? If you can see how often your progress rollback is happening, then you can measure your planner's efficiency, like how efficient he is in updating the schedule, whether he is doing it properly or it's just a wild guess, like 70% has progressed. Similarly, the cost rollback. Sometimes what happens, like the accountants, they don't have much knowledge about the project management system. So when a cost is coming, they just randomly book to any WBS structure. And then when the progress report comes out, when the project manager, the senior project manager and the executive see like, how is my project performing? They report that, then the cost gets realigned to its WBS where it should sit. So the cost rollback option, it's not actually rollback, it's reallocation. I would rephrase as reallocation. So the cost get booked in the wrong WBS code, wrong control account, and then they put a negative cost against it and reallocate in the right box. So we need to track how much it is happening in that aspect as well. So once we deal with the input things, then what we get is like how much progress has happened, that is the earned value, and how much cost we have incurred, that is the actual cost. If you get a report where earned value and actual cost is no way related, how would you feel about that on month-on-month reporting? What will be your confidence on the system if the actual cost which is being booked in the system and the progress which is being booked in the planning framework is no way correlated? So these are the important questions which we wanted to address through this case study. So first we'll see what the problem is, like these problems in bit more detail, and then eventually we'll come to the how do we monitor that. So these are the basically 4 broad categories where in what we had done the case study. So the first being the schedule data where we see the baseline management and the schedule data quality. Then we see the reporting challenges, like how WBS dictionary plays an important role in integrating the planning and the costing system, and what are the problems from the software and the systems point of view. Then we see the rollback, how much rollback is happening and what has happened in the case study. And then we finally see what is the correlation between the progress and the cost. So nowadays what is happening, we are in the information age, everything is about data. So clients are very concerned about the data, where it is going, how it is going, who has access to it, who doesn't have access to it. So, and the schedule, where you put all the data, you organize everything for a certain objective. Would you like to give away your schedule, the export of a schedule to anyone? Would you like anyone to have access to it? So that is where ProjCon has come up with an in-house tool named the Schedule Auditor. It is a Excel-based tool right now where you can create a layout in P6, copy and paste that information in Excel itself, and you will get these 12 quality parameters, how your schedule is performing. It can be done for a single project, it can be done for a multiple project at the same time. So you can copy and paste the information for 10 projects in a single layout, paste it in the template, and you will get the quality score, like how is it performing. Plus the advantage you get is, as per the DCMA guidelines, you have like 5% for predecessors, 5% for activities without successor. You can change that to your organizational needs. If you don't want 5%, you know like most of your schedules are, at least if it is 10%, you are okay with that. You can change the standards. So accordingly, you can, the schedule quality score which you are getting on the top, or the pass-fail what you are getting as the quality output, you can customize everything. You can customize on the number of checks even. Suppose you want 5 different checks to be performed, which you feel should be in there. So you can include new checks, you can define the quality parameters, and you can check the schedule quality. You can have several dashboards with that also, like customized dashboards, how you want to see it. Like this is a dashboard where it is about the incomplete activities. So you can see how your completed activities has performed, what was the schedule quality, how the incompleted activities are in future, which will be going to be performed. Going forward, like there is a DCMA guideline, like the number of high float activities which you have. So when you have an activity whose working duration is more than 44 days, you say it as a high duration activity, or the float is more than 44 days, you say it is high float activity. But how wrong it is? Like the activities which you are having, let's say suppose you have 20% of the activities which are high float activities, but out of the 20%, how many are between just outside it, how many are like 2 to 4 months, 4 to 6 months, or more than 6 months. So you can design the parameters where you want to check. Like if an activity is more than 6 months, let's say for example, out of the 20%, if 84% is there, so let's say 15% on the overall schedule. If you have 15% in a schedule which has an activity having a float of more than 6 months, will you be getting a right picture? So it tells you like in the direction you want to drill. Like if it is a 6 month or 1 year activity, the probability of getting wrong progress booked against it becomes very high. That is why we are focusing on how bad it is. So this was about the schedule auditor, the in-house tool which we have. Then the second part is how efficiently you are managing the baseline. In this graph showing, this is a project's S-curve. The blue line indicates the baseline in January 16. And the first black dotted line represents in the timeline January 16. Then we took another snapshot from April 16, like what is happening in April 16. So the red line is the cost curve in April 16. And you can clearly see going from January 16 to April 16, there has been 3 million, approximately 3 million of cost sanctioned. But when you are sanctioning a certain amount of cost, like you did approve a 3 million cost to the contractor. It might be for additional scope, it might be for your own delays, it might be for anything. But where do you think that cost should come? To my understanding, it should have come between January to April, somewhere in between. It shouldn't come before January. So if I say, like this is the planned value, so if I say my planned value in January 16, cumulative plan till date was around say 10.5 million. In February, can I go back and say, no, till January I had a planned value of 14 million? Will it make sense? So you cannot change in the historical cost profile. Whenever you are approving certain cost, you cannot go back in time and say, no, my historical planned value was not this much, but this much. It has changed by a certain cost, which is I don't find any sense of changing the historical cost. You are questioning your own planning system if you are changing the historical cost. In this case study, what happened is a certain other procurement item which was monitored in a different project that was decommissioned, and the procurement item was added in this project. It was like procurement item was happening from March 14 till December 15. That is why it has gradually went up. If you see, it has not went up abruptly, but it has gradually went up. So the scope was changed, but when you are merging with a different project, you not only have to update the planned value, but you have to update the progress, you have to update the actual cost. What about those? Those are again in question. So if you see on the highlighted part into more detail, here it shows like how in the monthly curve distribution, we can see how it has changed on month basis, and on the cumulative curve, we can see around 3 million change in that frame in time. So this is a very important aspect which we should always monitor whenever we are updating a baseline, whenever we are updating a certain scope of work, like whether my historical cost is changing. Am I doing the right thing when I'm updating the baseline? The planner should focus especially on this aspect whenever there is a change in baseline, whenever a cost is approved, whenever time is approved. So in doing this analysis, the data was collected on the project level, like what is how many projects the data has changed, the baseline has been approved and all. Then it was normalized, it was linked properly, analyzed. Then again it went back because we didn't know why did it change. So we took the data again from the data sources, from Excel database. We did analyze it again, and then finally we reported the outcome. So once the schedule part is done, then in this overall reporting framework, there might be several reporting challenges. So suppose you have Primavera as a planning tool and you have SAP as a scheduling tool. or costing tool. So when you are when you have an activity in Primavera for 6 months and you have a cost spread for that activity in SAP for 12 months, which system would you rely upon? So when you have multiple systems at place, the basic concept I'm trying to emphasize is it should be aligned. If the dates, if the cost, if the resource in two different systems which you are maintaining like progress and cost, if both are not aligned, again you have questions on the planning framework. So alignment in the core system like planning and cost control, which in earned value management we do compare what was planned and how much cost have we incurred. So both systems should be aligned. Then the second part is WBS and cost breakdown integration. So if the work breakdown, if you are monitoring work in a different way, if you are monitoring cost in a different way, it will be very difficult to integrate both and compare. So both should be integrated. Like you are booking in a cost in a WBS code in a SAP, which doesn't have anything to progress in P6. So where will that cost go? What is happening to that cost? How will it impact your progress parameter? Or the vice versa, you are progressing on certain item and you don't have any cost against it. So with this combination, you can with these two things you can have a lot of things. Suppose an activity has completed in P6 in the planning system, but it still have some remaining cost in SAP. How do you deal with that remaining cost? Or activity has not completed, it has just progressed 20% and you don't have any cost allocation for it. So you need to quantify how much it is happening, whether my reporting system is up to date, whether the data I'm relying upon is actually reliable. If you have account of these aspects, then you can probably be more confident on the data you are taking decisions on. Then the third aspect is change in WBS dictionary. So very often in massive organizations, when a new business unit has come up or a new transition has happened, the WBS dictionary, we align it to the existing system or the new system. So there might be some changes, some new codes might be introduced, some old codes might be deleted. But when some old codes are getting deleted and you have 100 odd programs in your planning system and in your costing system, how does it impact your existing framework? It might take you around 6 months time to align into the new system. What happens to the 6 months reporting? What happens to the decisions you need to take in those 6 months? So you need to quantify the small change in WBS dictionary might be a massive impact on the reporting which you are doing. So this WBS dictionary plays a very important role. Change in WBS dictionary plays a very important role, how efficient is your data reporting. Then the other system and software induced issues are like when you are using a software to copy your data from the contractor's database into your own database, it does certain illogical planning errors. Sometimes I will give you an example. Sometimes what it does is it assigns resources beyond your activity start and activity finish date. That is absolutely illogical. Like nobody in planning can define that. Like how will I incur some cost before the activity has started or the activity has finished? So this sort of errors. Then it has invalid dates. On the 1st of January 2016, it says like the activity has started on 1st of April 2016. How can that be? How can you actualize an activity which is in future? And then sometimes what happens is like everybody in this room use Excels, right? So when you enter a date into an Excel and you put the year into a 2-character format, let's say 1st of January 99, what will Excel understand of that? It's 1999. So Excel actually works in a 100-year timeline. It works from 1930 to 2029. If you just put 1st Jan 55, it will by default take it as 1955. So there are limitations with widely used tools like Excel. There are limitations to those as well. You need to make sure like how it is impacting on your reporting framework. Similarly, there are limitations when we are integrating a planning system and a costing system. It might have limitations like when using Primavera reporting services, it goes and stops at 2046 at some date. It won't take any resource allocation beyond it. So those limitations we need to account for how it is happening. Sometimes the cost, the resource distribution, the cost distribution is not complete. So you need to know like, okay, the cost, we have got a truncated cost. So those things the system and software related issues, we need to account for that as well. Like how much is it impacting our data quality report or the progress parameters which we are reporting. So going forward, this was the finding, and I was completely amazed like how often it is happening, like the cost is getting reallocated. So it is very surprising, like it might be due to various reasons also, like the WBS dictionary changing. When a certain code has been taken off, you need to take that cost off from that code and put in the right pockets. So there can be reasons of this happening at this scale, but 1 in 5 WBS is reported negative cost, and 25% of the total cost which is being reported, some point in time you report in negative, then that is a serious, like we need to take account of the whole planning scenario in a very serious note, like where it is accounting and how it is accounting. If you see the second graph, it shows on a monthly basis how much has it, the red bar is showing like on a monthly scale how much it is happening. So it has like in a 2-year cycle, probably 3 or 4 months are there where there hasn't been any negative cost reporting. Otherwise, in all the months, some negative cost has been reported. So you need to get an account of all these things, like how much negative cost is being reallocated. One such scenario came through, the actual cost booked under contractors project management was 5 times the budget allocated to it. So it's not only monitoring like what we are reporting, but it's also creating systems, like updating the systems in a way it doesn't accept that data. So if you configure SAP in a way where it won't accept any actual cost which is greater than the budget, will help us reduce this sort of error. Then we will go forward to the progress rollback. So the cost rollback is somehow understood, like the cost was wrongly booked and it has been reallocated, that we understand. But how do we justify when the progress has been rolled back? So suppose you reported this work has been completed, and then in the next month you say, no, the reporting which we done in the last month was something faulty. We haven't completed, we are only 90% done. So what it does is it reduces the overall confidence on the whole system. So we need to monitor on the progress rollback stuff as well, like how often it is happening, whether it is actually due to the change management, or it is very happening each and every month and stuff. So here you can see it is quite less than the actual cost, but still it is happening. So we need to keep a track of this stuff as well. Going forward, the last data quality issue, not a data quality issue actually, it is the data which has been analyzed and seen. Like in the y-axis is the actual cost, and in the x-axis is the earned value. So this plot depicts 24 months data reporting what has been done. 2 financial year data has been reported, and for any particular month, this let's say if you take the topmost point which is highlighted in red, for that particular month, the earned value was reported around 2.5 million and the actual cost was reported around 10 million. For this 2-year data, the correlation which was found was 0.3, which is just above no way correlated. So the progress which you are doing and the cost which you are booking, if a correlation comes as it's no way correlated, then how confident would you feel about the report which you are producing? The y is equals to 45 degree. The 45 degree line represents if the cost which is being booked and the progress which is being done, if it is equal, it will come in that, it will fall on that line. And the shaded area indicates it with a 20% error margin. So suppose you have, like you have your invoicing schedule built in a certain way, like once your progress is done, you will get invoice after certain time. So that is why that 20% margin is taken. Or you can increase it to 30% or 40%. But it shouldn't be like it is nowhere correlated to what the progress you are getting. Leaving that apart, you have got negative earned value and negative actual cost on the project level, not on the WBS level, but on the project level. So the negative cost which you have reported, the cost rollback which you have done, or the progress rollback which you have done, is even more than the progress which you have done for the last month. That is why on the project level it is coming, it is the highlighted areas, negative actual cost and negative earned value, like it has 3 points each. So out of 24 points, you have got 5 points, like 5 months, in which your data is not reliable at all. So with this presentation or with this case study, we try to emphasize like what are the reporting gaps which one can incur, and how do you improve your reporting framework, the data framework which you are dealing with. How do you improve it? How do you make it dependent for data-driven decisions, for the progress parameters which you are calculating? How do you make it reliable to take business decisions with it? So the only way is to monitor it with this risk associated with the project, the risk associated with the portfolio. So all these data quality aspects which was discussed can be separated into 2 different parts. One is the qualitative aspect and one is the quantitative aspect. So some of the data quality issues might be questioning on the overall framework, like how reliable your system is, how reliable your process is. So you need to reconsider your systems, your processes, and see how reliable it is on the qualitative part. On the quantitative part, like how much quantity is it impacting, whether it is in the error margin which you had already accounted for, or it is beyond that, and how do you improve upon that? How do you manage the risk, the data quality risk, I would say. That's all. Thank you.
Are there any questions, please?
You talked about the schedule auditor.
Yeah.
So how does how is it different really from diffuse analytics really? If you know diffuse analytics, that gives us plan quality checks.
Yeah.
And the one you just represented now.
The fuse analytics, what one is using, when you get one program at a time, like when you are checking for the contractor schedule, you can very well use the fuse analytics, or when you are using your own database quality checks, you can use it with fuse. The advantage of schedule auditor over fuse is you don't need the amount of data, what amount of data you need in fuse. Like this schedule auditor works on a simple P6 layout. You don't need to give access to your XCR file, you don't need to give access to your database to a certain software. It is an Excel based tool. You can give this tool to the planners at the site. They can use and see like what is happening. You don't need to give your confidential data access to everyone. With Fuse, you need to either you need to do it with your database, or you need to do it with the export. In most of the companies, the export and import of data is literally banned. It has very limited access to it because of the nature of the data, because of the confidentiality of the data. So that is where we are chipping in as a customized in-house tool, I would say. It's not a software, it's an in-house tool which you can use in, which you can give to your planners and use it in a better efficient way with less amount of data. or the only data which is required.